Good morning. Good morning. We are in the studio expecting the arrival of the Dr. the Honorable Terrance Drew, our Prime Minister, as a special guest on Inside the News. And, the last time I was in this seat and he was sitting opposite from me, he was not a PM. He was campaigning at the time, and I know we had a lot to talk about, and it's serendipitous that I've been asked to come right back in these seats and ask him the questions that we want to know the answers to, burning questions. People have sent me questions already, believe it or not. When I sent this to some of my peers or posted these on my socials, they're like, ask him this and ask him that. And I'm like, pace yourselves. And, we're in a festive mood, and, Carnival is right around the corner. In fact, Carnival, in my opinion, has started. Once Calypso tents have started, that has marked the beginning of Carnival. And last night was the launch of the Legends tent, and yours truly was featured on there. It was a good showing. It was at Meltaway down in the village, and it was good to see people coming out and having a good time. And so, yeah, it's been interesting, so to speak. Now, some people have approached me and says, what happened to your show? Somebody actually saw me last week and says, are you not doing your Only Good News show anymore? I'm like, listen, today, once again, if you see the PM here, we're going to try our best to bring lots of good news. And sometimes my mom used to always tell me, and I don't think this works in politics or in leadership circles, but she used to tell me, no news is good news. I don't think this works here, but at the same time, I'm just trying to say that sometimes we may not always be happy when we hear certain things as parents, and even with children. There's sometimes our parents may be looking out in our best interest, making decisions on our behalf that don't make us necessarily happy. And in my opinion, I think that the government is, in a sense, glorified parents, where they end up making decisions on our behalf that we're not always going to be pleased about. So for instance, this is once again, I love speaking in analogies, where children love candy, children love soda, children love cake, and as parents, if our child comes and says, Mommy, I want candy for breakfast, it's going to make me happy. I want candy for lunch, it's going to make me happy. And I also want soda with that. And then I want candy and cake and cheesecake for dinner. That's going to make me happy. It is going to make the kids happy. And at the same time, is that going to be good for them in the long run? Is that going to make them happy in the long run? Or is that going to put more of the strain on you as a parent and also on the child when they start to develop health issues down the line? And so, as the Prime Minister and as the government, and he's right here, you can come and sit in the hot seat. I'm here speaking on your behalf. Good morning, sir. So we I was saying that we're here to bring good news, just as we did when you were here about 2 years ago.
You remember that?
Oh, I don't forget that. And I was basically saying that not every, and if we don't bring good news, our intention is also going to be good at the end of the day.
Yes.
And I was saying that the government, in a sense, is like the relationship with the government and the people is analogous to the relationship between parents and their children. I think you're looking for some headphones. You can go ahead and give these a shot.
Okay.
Hold on, let me just plug this in for you. Oh, wait a second. We try to get headphones. Wait, this guy. Wait, is this one? This was not working? Try that. Okay, can you hear?
This is
Awesome. So I was saying it's like a relationship between parents and their children where your kids may decide they want ice cream for lunch, for breakfast, for dinner. It's going to make them happy. They want soda as drink. It's going to make them happy. And they want that every day. It's going to make them happy. And as a parent, you have to decide, listen, I'm going to tell you no. And it's not going to make you happy now, but in the long run, the problems that you're going to avoid will result in you being able to be happy, and health is wealth at the end of the day. And so today, even we are going to bring good in terms of news and in terms of information. And whatever does not make you happy, please note and accept that their intentions are to look out, and his intentions are to look out for our best interests at all times. That's the mandate that would have been campaigned upon, and they're sticking to that. Am I correct?
Yes, I would say that is definitely correct. Let me say good morning to you.
Morning,
and
sir.
the wonderful staff of this radio station, and to thank you for accommodating me this morning, this Saturday morning. Let me say also good morning to all those who are listening and those who are viewing this critical moment where I will discuss a number of pertinent national issues, and so we can have a conversation around it. So I, want to continue I have a lot of formal engagements, but I like some engagements that are less formal so that we can have real, meaningful conversations around the issues that are affecting our people.
Awesome.
The challenges and how we are dealing with them. And to say from the onset, there will always be challenges.
Right.
This is life. It is a part of life. However, our goal will always be to work to mitigate those challenges and to always deliver the best that can be delivered to
Correct.
our people. So that is the intention, and we'll continue to work on that. So with that, I would allow you to develop the interview as you see fit, but I can make some statements if you wish, and we can discuss around that.
I think I'll start.
Okay. Yes.
People have been asking me when they found out that I was going to be talking to you this morning. I was like, okay, ask him this and ask him. And I was like,
Sure.
I said,
That's
listen,
fine.
but you're solid now.
Yes.
A hot topic, and this is pertaining to the economy, but the hottest topic on the socials and everywhere is this whole notion of a double salary, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm going to say thank you for is thank you for giving us a double salary in perpetuity, because that is what you did by giving that 8% increase at the beginning of the year.
Yes.
I don't think people have understood that if you split up 50% of your salary into 12 months, you get 8.33%.
Correct.
8.33%.
Correct.
You gave an 8% increase.
Yes.
And people are like, well, it's not the same as the double. Okay, fine. That 0.33 can come from one Amazon shopping shipment that you get from E-Zone or from West Tech or all of that kind of stuff.
Yes.
And that makes up for that 0.33%.
Yes.
So in perpetuity, you've given a double.
Yes.
From
Right.
henceforth.
Yes.
So when I see people clamoring and asking, I just saw a post about how Sinkits come last. I'm like, no, we came first. I don't understand.
Yes.
So I would like you to
Right.
validate what I've just said. I've put out a whole post about this.
Yes.
I did the math.
Yes.
I gave them a scenario.
I'm happy that you did that.
Oh, I did that. I like to
Yes.
educate. I'm a teacher.
Exactly.
So I said from the time that happened, I said,
Yeah.
he's giving us a double.
Yes. So let me say that you have done the correct maths. And we did the maths and insisted that the maths be done. Let me say why an increase makes sense. If we are going to shift our people into the best situation, having that type of increase over time, increasing their salaries bring a lot more stability, and it brings a lot more surety, so to
Correct.
speak, in the sense that when you calculate it, this gives them a double all the time.
Yes.
Not just if 1 year it's doing well and the next year not doing well. This amounts to a double over the time which you have calculated. So I'm happy that you calculated it. The other matter is, because you now have a larger salary increase, it means that you have been empowered. So your loan possibilities go up. Because you have that money as part of your normal remuneration, you can approach institutions and say, look, this is my salary amount. And having a larger salary gives you more possibilities. Not only that, when you get that, you have more possibilities of investments as well. And at the end of the day, when your pension or your social security is calculated, it is calculated at a higher rate. If you get a double salary, that does not go to your overall pension at
Right.
the end of your life work.
Right.
But when you increase the salary, you get an increase in social security pension as well, which gives you more security at that time in your life. Not only that, if you were to get sick, your amount will be higher because you have a higher salary, because the amount Social Security gives depends on your salary. So when you say that people say we come last, I want to point out that we actually have first in terms of delivering to our people. The only country in the Western Hemisphere that has given dividends to its people is St. Kitts and Nevis. This is the only country, and we did it on 2 occasions. We are first. That's one. The second matter is, we have now in CARICOM, I think it's the highest minimum wage, and we are bound to increase it again in 2025. We have the highest minimum wage. We did that. The other thing we did, we gave extra pay, which means we gave extra pay when we gave the increase. You remember, they still got an increase, extra half pay plus the increase.
Right, I remember.
And then in addition to that, they got one in 2022, what you call the double salary.
Yes.
And no other country has done that. And in addition to that, they got an independence reset where they got $1,000. And then we rearrange SCELEC, Water Department, and NHC so that we took away some of the debt burden. No other country in the Western Hemisphere, where they go from Canada all the way down to Argentina, has been able to do this. We have been the most, I would say, progressive in terms of giving direct help to the people. Salary increase, minimum wage increase, dividend, reset package, and reset their electricity, their water, and NHC to take the debt burden away. So in a sense, if one has to look at this objectively, and you want to compare, because people want to compare, no other country even come 25% close to what we have done here in St. Kitts and Nevis. So if you hear another country giving, let's say, double salary or extra pay this year, if you look at their track record, you will recognize that that is a one-off,
yes,
and no significant salary increase came, which will give them that extra pay amount over a year. Our minimum wage is higher. None of them paid dividend. None of them gave a reset like we did. And so on record, St. Kitts and Nevis is way ahead. And our people should not take it for granted. While I will say there are challenges, God, I accept that there are challenges, but I also want to accept and to put on the table that no other country in the Western Hemisphere comes close to what we have done for our people. And in the long run, I think that if one were to be honest, people would recognize that we have done a significant amount of work to ease the burden on the people. Not only that, we have the lowest gas prices at the pump because we subsidize it. In terms of the LPG gas, the tank of gas, we subsidize it as well.
It's been $30 forever.
Yes, forever. It's been $30. We have one of the lowest prices, if not the lowest price, in the whole of the OECS. So we have managed to control energy cost. And in addition to that, we have also managed to control water costs, because water is still, even though we have some challenges, still very, very cheap in St. Kitts and Nevis. That is why St. Kitts and Nevis was ranked to have the highest human development index in the whole of CARICOM. We went to number 1 in the OECS, but we were judged last year to be number 1 in CARICOM. So we passed Bahamas and we passed Barbados, and St. Kitts hit the number 1 spot in human development index in the whole of CARICOM. I'm not saying that there are not challenges, but I think that the truth must also be told. No other country comes close. And when we gave that 8% increase, is because we really want the people to have that as part of their normal pay. So that increase or that extra pay is something that will always be with them, and they can benefit from it in terms of their pension, their sick leave benefit, their disability benefit, and if they were to go on maternity leave. And so I just wanted to set the record straight to say the numbers show, because that was a comparison, we actually have first.
So I think we have a branding problem.
Yes.
I think this is clear that there is a distinct branding problem. Even when you announced the increase, I think it would have helped if it was branded as a double salary in perpetuity, and where you would have advised people, listen, if you want, you were already doing without this increase for 12 months where you got the lump sum, put aside half of that every month. Not even the whole thing.
Right.
So you can get a salary and a half from your financial institution at the end of the year, which is what you gave last year.
Yes.
So I think that if that was your initial messaging, you would not be seeing people clamoring this year for a double. Because they have not seen, some people haven't really felt that increase because it's just giving them an increased spending power on things that may be frivolous, that they don't really need, right? And so I think that from a branding perspective, you can do a little bit more.
Well, I take your word on that, and probably we will brand it like that the increase is actually a double salary embedded for perpetuity. Nobody can take it away from you. And a politician cannot decide whether you get it this year or next year. And that is why we continue to lead. So these are the decisions that have to be made sometimes. And part of it, too, is that people know the truth, and they want to feed some of our people what is not true. It is fine to have a different position, but the facts are the facts. You can't have alternative facts. The facts are the facts, that there was an increase that equals to what would be considered an extra salary, but this gives you more standing power in terms of your economic position to approach institutions and to have more possibilities of building wealth and investments and so forth. And that is why we are going to start the Aspire program. Because if our people are equipped with the information, people who are trying to fool them will not be able to fool them. They'll say, okay, you said that the Prime Minister is not giving a lump sum double salary, but he gave us an 8% increase. Let's do a calculation of what the Prime Minister has done. What the Prime Minister has really done is to give us that extra salary in the increase every year. So you are guaranteed to have that. So when you compare us to others, we have first. And that is what I would say with respect to that.
So we're going to see an infographic with this information coming from... I developed one, but it didn't go viral for obvious reasons.
I would love to see it, because I think you sat down, and I think other people might have done the maths as well. And I will sit down with the math, and I will do it and get it out to our people.
Please,
as possible.
Because there are a lot... Listen, I've always said, when I hear people complaining about... Everyone complains about every government.
Yes.
It's almost like we can't be pleased. But I've always said that if the government, here's another analogy.
Yes.
The government sometimes can be akin to a husband and a wife situation.
Correct.
Where you go and say, listen, I'm the best person for you.
Yes.
Please accept me as your husband.
Yes.
I'm the best. I'll make you happy and everything. And after 4 years or 5 years, you get to choose whether you want to still keep me. And other people are going to be trying to do that.
Yes.
If during the 4 years, my wife is happy, she's well fed, her needs are taken care of, She doesn't have much worries. We have our challenges, but we work through things together.
Yes.
After those 4, if I now start to go and say, listen, I am going to pay you or ask you or try to prove to you that I am the best, she should tell me, no, I tell you I'm happy every month, every year.
Yes.
So what I'm saying is the government is there to add value to our lives. And it cannot be all bad.
Yes.
So I'm saying like part of what we're just talking about is things that are good.
Yes.
I want us to talk more about what else is, because if we are richer,
yes,
if we're happier, and I'm not disputing that we have challenges, but if there are all these things, if CFBC students don't have to pay for school, right? If our roads are being done, if all of these subsidies exist, how on earth are people going to feel comfortable saying that they're not doing anything?
Yes.
I don't get it.
Right.
Say they're doing something and they can do more.
Yes.
That can be true.
Yes.
Right? So I want us to really, and again, I'm a pursuant of truth.
Yes.
And I've always asked, where can we go to get all the things that the government is doing currently? I actually built a platform for them. I'm going to show it to you when we're done.
Thank you very much.
Seriously. So you can see throughout the years what they're working on, what progress has been made, what challenges were encountered in that, and that gives you an era of transparency like has never been seen before. So I'm going to show you.
Yes.
Because that's what I need as a voter, and I think that the general populace will benefit from that, because you can't come and see that document or that platform and still go back and say they're not doing anything. Say we have challenges.
Yes.
Say the government can work better through some of the challenges. They're not perfect.
Right.
But acknowledge what is. So I want you to start talking more about what is present, why, in your opinion, things are going well for the economy, for education, for tourism. Let's start with those three.
Right. So
why are things going well for the economy, tourism, and education? Because people are saying things are not going well. So let's hear direct from you. Why are things going well?
Good. So with respect to the platform, I'm happy. The press secretary is here, Mr. Javan Libert, and I asked him to put that together. So when people say what the government is doing, I told him to create a button so I can share it, or anybody can share it, and you just click on it and you can see. So I would love to see what you have.
Oh, yeah.
He told me he was going to launch it on Friday of this week coming up. So I will look forward to seeing what you have.
Okay.
Now, and the economy, let's start from what we inherited. We inherited a deficit, and that was said in the 2022. A government can have a deficit from time to time, depending. But my position is, if there's a deficit, say there's a deficit, and don't say that there's a surplus.
Correct.
Just be straight up with the people. So when we start to dig deep, because on the surface it was not being seen, so we start to see what was happening. And I say, okay, let us dig deeper to see what is there. Now, two things might have affected the deficit. One is that we took too long to open the country.
Okay.
So the taxi drivers and those who are in the hotel industry, the hoteliers and so forth, they suffered unnecessarily. Because remember, there were COVID restrictions up to the 7th of August. And I got elected, sworn in on the 5th. I then opened the country on the 7th. Right? I think it was the 6th, sorry, and I opened the countries on the 7th. That was the Sunday when I met with the task force. I said, show me the data. The data they showed me from the COVID, they said the country could have been opened up months ago. I just happened to be a medical doctor and understand these figures. I said, why wasn't the country open up? Of course, nobody in the meeting would be able to give me an answer, except that the authorities said not to open up the country. So they went against advice when the country could have been opened up in March. And because of that, St. Kitts and Nevis suffered the slowest bounce back in the tourism industry. Almost all the other countries hit record highs. And the reason why that happened is that you had these people in Europe and the US, Canada, who just wanted to get out. So when the restrictions were lifted, they just move out. But guess which country still had a lock on the door? St. Kitts and Nevis. So we were hurt badly to the tune of tens of millions of dollars, US dollars, in 2022. And that was a bad decision. So that is where we were working from. The second matter is the country had become too dependent on the CBI program. And I want to say the CBI program pays for everything. It is not like slicing on the icing on the cake. It pays the policemen. It pays the teachers. It pays the civil servants. It pays for the mainstay of the country. So it means, therefore, that the CBI is what also used to pay the extra salary, or what you call the double salary. It is what pays for every single thing in the country, because it became 60 to 70% of the main economy. What should have really happened, they should have kept it in fence in the consolidated funds, but run the main economy and then use the CBI to buttress whatever needed to be buttressed. Instead of doing that, it became the main course. So when you have a fragile industry such as the CBI, and we see what we went through, because I had to make drastic moves to save the CBI and our visa-free access, you see, again, sometimes it's hard for the human being to appreciate when they don't go through something. For example, if you were going down the steps and you would have fallen and somebody put something there so that you don't fall, and the person said, because I put that there, you didn't fall, you might take it for granted.
You might abuse.
Yeah, you might just, okay, all right, thank you, and you move on.
Right.
But if you were to have fallen and then that person were to pick you up and put you in an ambulance and take you to the hospital, you would feel much more appreciative of that person, because then you realize my life was at risk and they saved me. But you're not appreciating that they helped to prevent you from falling in the first place. That is what is happening with the CBI. If it had crashed, we would have lost visa-free access. Think our reputation would have been severely damaged. There would have been no hope of recuperating it. Hence, the drastic decisions that we made in the CBI had some negative repercussions, which I told the people the toughest thing that I have to deal with as the Prime Minister is the CBI program, for multiple reasons. One, because under the previous administration, we had become too dependent on it. It paid everything. And I think people need to know that as well. It even paid for PAP, STEP, and any other social program. So imagine you have to use that same money to pay police, teachers, PAP, STEP, everything. And then, based on how it was managed, we had to make the adjustments, which affected the inflows, but we would have lost it, no doubt in our mind. So we had to make measures in order to save it, and in a sense to relaunch it, to get back on our footing. But that would, of course, would have its own consequences, so to speak. So notwithstanding that, we took the decision that the people were hurt badly during the COVID. And so we needed to ease the burden after COVID. Because if you allowed that burden to be falling on the people right out of COVID, you could have broken the people. And so we gave a lot of support. The reset, extra salaries, dividend, and other things that we did to help our people. Opened up the country so that taxi drivers and those in the hotel industry could make money again, so that the hotels can bring back people to work. And so in a sense, we had to reset the economy. So the economy is now on solid footing, but it would need 2025, where we will see the true recovery of the economy on a diversified path and a more sustainable and solid path. As I said before the elections, I am willing and will make the tough decisions for the betterment of our country of St. Kitts and Nevis. And we have done that. So that is the background. Let us see where we are presently as we speak. In 2025, we will see a lot of major projects taking place. This will create economic growth. It will also provide a lot of jobs, especially in the construction area and those others that would benefit indirectly from construction. We have a number of major projects that are already sealed and on their way. The hospital, the Climate Smart Hospital, already on its way. The housing program, already on its way. So far, NHC has built 110 homes. That is significant, because in the last administration, first 2 years, they only built 30 homes, 30. You can get those numbers from NHC. We have built 110 homes. Again, maybe it's an issue of marketing. 110. Not only that, I've said to the people that we will start another 100 before the year end. And we are gearing up to that, another 100, because then our full housing program will kick into gear. So that those are two major projects. The other one is the Bastia High School. That is really finalizing in terms of its planification. We will also have the desal plant, which is on its way as well. That is a significant investment to make sure we have more water. The road networks that is being constructed, not just St. Peter's Main Road. We are doing roads all around, places like Newton Ground and up in Buckley's and so forth. Yeah, we have multiple areas where we are doing roads at this particular time. The other thing, we have signed a deal with Tabasco where we will grow peppers for Tabasco, the pepper company. We have already signed the deal. Right now, we have our demonstration farm. We have secured a building on the industrial sites. We are buying the equipment, and that will be set up. We are going to do initially 100 acres. Each 10 acres will require 30 people. So when we multiply it by 10, that will be 300 people to be employed in the agricultural sector, just from that. That is one of the biggest deals in agriculture since the closing of the sugar industry. Now we will intersperse that with other products, other crops that we'll grow to supply local markets and also external markets. That I launched with the Minister of Agriculture about 2 to 3 weeks ago. Let me say that we have, as I've mentioned, the hospital, we have mentioned the school, we have mentioned housing, the desal plant, the agriculture. At this present time, Hotel Indigo is undergoing its construction, has restarted. And I will say to you, on the 3rd of December, you should give me a call. I'm going to make another major announcement. The other thing that we have done, we are investing in the power station at Nismas, which will provide jobs as well. We are bringing in 2 major generators because we see what happens with the electricity. But I'm speaking just from the economic standpoint. That would help as well. If you look at all of those projects, what they're saying to us is that we will not have enough stone. And so we are now investing in the quarry to bring in new equipment so we can produce enough stones. Presently, we have a challenge with stones because construction has picked up so quickly. So when you look at tourism, where we are expecting over 1 million tourists, and we're going to build more rooms, as I told you, Hotel Indigo and other things. When you look at agriculture and that deal with Tabasco, when you look at construction, as I told you just now, when you look at the relaunching of the CBI program, and when you look at the possibility where our people will be able to invest, and that is why we're going to do the Aspire program. When you look at all of these, you'll recognize. But the other thing is, as we are seeking to achieve the sustainable island state, and I can say St. Kitts and Nevis will lead on this in the Caribbean, we recognize that energy is at the center. And presently, we have a number of energy initiatives, which I will make the announcements. We are going to go rapidly into renewable energy.
Good.
Presently, there's a project to decarbonize our port. We're going to see the windmills and so forth. That is a project that we have. That is on the way as well. But we're also going to get involved in solar energy. And in a few weeks, I will announce again exactly how we are going to do that. So I can say, from my perspective, St. Kitts and Nevis is setting the foundation to take off. No longer should we depend on any single sector for 60 to 70% of our revenues. Because now that we see what has happened to CBI, which we had to take tough measures to save, we see how risky it is. And that is why we have to rush quickly to take measures and to put things in place so that we can push the economy forward. Even with all those challenges, St. Kitts and Nevis is still number 1. And St. Kitts became number 1 in the CARICOM. And St. Kitts and Nevis has the highest human development index. And St. Kitts and Nevis is poised to gallop towards the sustainable island state. But I say again, the reason why I gave that increase is that the double salary was being used as a political tool and limiting our people. If we were to give our people that in their regular salary, it would empower them so that they can make good financial decisions for now and for the future. As you say, sometimes in politics, maybe it would have been good to hold it back and then give them, because politically it plays better.
Yes, it does.
I have to admit that. But I've come to recognize something, that at the end of the day, you will be asked the tough questions of your tenure. And at the time of elections, you'll be asked the tough questions. Did we take the right decisions at the time for the betterment of our people? I have to think about that, because I will be judged at some point in history. And as was said before, history will absolve me. Let me say the last thing. You remember the name, I don't know if you know the founder of Singapore. I read a book from him recently. When he took over Singapore, when Singapore was pushed aside as an abandoned island, bigger St. Lucia, you all are wasting our time, you all are going to get nowhere. He said he had to make the fundamental decisions so that Singapore would be where it is today. And the tough decisions he had to make were not always seen as good in the moment. But those who understood what he was saying and what he was doing believed him and supported him. And today Singapore, for its size, is probably the most advanced country on earth. One of the things he set up was the Sovereign Wealth Fund. And he did not touch it. He said, whatever happens, we can't touch this. Even if we have to take a cut this way and that way, if Singapore is to get out of the slums that we are in, these are the decisions that we have to make. And he made those decisions. And today, the people respect him and honor him because they have one of the highest standard of living in the world because he made the decisions. Not because they were not good decisions, but because they were tough. But the people are benefiting and they're saying what wonderful decisions he would have made. If you go back to our first national hero, Robert Llewellyn Bratcher, he had to make tough decisions so that today we can say St. Kitts is on a good path because of the tough decisions that were made then. So I just wanted to bring that to show where we are coming from and what the government is doing and my willingness as the Prime Minister to make proper, sound decisions. Sometimes they will be tough. Sometimes they will be a challenge. But I have to make the decision or the decisions that are good for our people. And history will bore that out.
Let me follow up because you've added a lot of context.
Yes.
When you're campaigning, and I know nothing about political science,
yes,
but I do know that if anybody comes and says, I am going to do this within this particular timeline, I'm going to hold you to that, and I'm going to take that as face value until I have any reason to doubt.
Right.
So is it fair to say that the promises that were made, some of which are taking a little bit longer, right? Were they made on the premise that we thought that there was more money and that there was not a deficit at the time? Am I correct?
Right. So let me tell you what happened. Even though we understood that, the shocker in all of it was the state of the CBI.
Okay.
That, because you can work through the deficit, you can work through this. But the shocker in all of it that was hidden from the people was the state of the CBI. And because the economy depended 60 to 70%, which of course we would have ideas of, but when we got in there and recognized that the mismanagement was leading to the loss of our visa-free access, to the damage of the reputation to St. Kitts and Nevis, to the loss of the program. That, as I said, when I came in, and I said it early, this is the most challenging thing that I have to deal with. Because again, remember, the CBI was used to pay for everything. Even though the CBI was used to pay for everything, we still ended up in a deficit in 2022 because people did not care about the rest of the economy as long as they thought that the CBI was bringing in what it was bringing in. But it was fragile and it was dangerous. But notwithstanding what you're saying, the other thing we found was the state of the Development Bank and Social Security. We found Development Bank in debt of easily over $250 million, over $300 million. With that, Development Bank could not repay Social Security for the $100+ million that it owed. The payments were completely stopped in January of 2022 to the Social Security. As a result of that, when the auditors came in to see Social Security under us, they are saying to us, if Development Bank cannot repay this loan, Social Security will have 8 to 12% of its total assets in trouble. And if that is the case, Social Security will receive a bad audited report. That is a disaster. For those who are in the financial industry, if you have a non-performing loan, which accounts for 8 to 12% of your overall assets, that puts you in serious trouble when you're audited. Confidence would be lost across the economy. People will start to scramble. So what did we do? We said, look, we uncover this. We knew that Development Bank was being mismanaged because we saw Development Bank open on a Saturday, on a Sunday. We know that shenanigans were taking place. But when you saw the tune to which those shenanigans were taking place, that was a shocker, to the tune of over $250 million in debt and not paying back 1 cent to Social Security from January 2022. We started to pay back Social Security in September of 2022, the very next month, because I said we have to take this decision. We have to save Social Security because people's livelihoods depend on Social Security. Social Security is the largest social safety net. This cannot be threatened or be seen to be threatened. Otherwise, it rocks the whole foundation of our economy. And so we started to pump millions of dollars into Development Bank. Of course, we said to Development Bank, we have to make sure that this money is not squandered. So we send the money, 0 interest or 1%, very low interest loan. Then we created a fund almost where when Social Security pays back, when Development Bank pays back the government, that money goes into a fund. So guess what it becomes? A revolving fund. So then Social Security can only touch it when they come back to the government and say, we are going to touch it for this, this, and this. Development Bank rather, not Social Security, would say we're going to touch it. So we have put tighter controls on Development Bank. As a result of that, Development Bank was able to pay back Social Security, a lump sum of $13 million to cover all the non-payments and to cover all the interests that had gathered, all of it. That was done. And so in a sense, when they did that, and then Development Bank now is on much better footing, that is now able to pay back Social Security, the $600,000+ per month to service the loan. So Social Security Development Bank has cleared its interest and backlog with Social Security. It is now also paying the full amount. And I can say business at the Development Bank has picked up significantly. And I can say that as a result of that, Social Security is protected and Development Bank is seeing recovery. Those were tough decisions to be made, but they were the right decisions. Had we not done that and continue on the path of acting like we have money and giving money here, but taking the money out of Development Bank and Development Bank getting from Social Security, while we act like we had money, we didn't really have the money because we were putting that deficit into Development Bank, and Development Bank was getting it from Social Security, and both institutions were on thin ice. And if they are affected, the whole system is affected, and no other social program would make sense because the whole system will be judged as a system that is not on solid ground, and no confidence means failure. And a failure of Development Bank, a failure of Social Security means a failure of the financial system of St. Kitts and Nevis. That is why we had to make the decisions.
So So it beckons that had you known all of these things, the promises that were made during the campaign cycle would have been made, but your timeline for implementation would have changed. Am I correct?
Of course, that would have been changed, because when you go in, you see what you find. But notwithstanding that, though, if I were to go back and see some of the promises that were made and the timelines for some of these, I can say we are on track to complete well over 60% of the promises. And probably you can pull it up and you can go through and I can show you. Dividend paid. Increase in minimum wage, done. Increase in civil servants, done. Establishment of the pension of the GAE workers, which was never done in the history of St. Kitts and Nevis, done. It means that the crossing guards now have a pension. It means that the cleaners now have a pension. It means that the security guards now have a pension. These people were called the auxiliary workers and they were not entitled to a pension. And that was promised since 2012. And in less than 2 years, we gave them their pension. That is a significant achievement. And so these people need to be interviewed. Are you getting your pension? And hundreds of people are now getting a pension where they did not get a pension. On top of their pension, they got an increase in salary. When you look at the college, free college, when you look at the interest rate for loans in Development Bank, the lowest ever, we have also stopped interest payment in Development Bank while you are studying. And that money does not accumulate. We totally forgive it so that you do not start out on a footing burdened by debt. And that was to help those who are, especially those not from rich family. If you have a lady who makes a minimum wage, her child goes to college, she takes a loan from Development Bank to supplement. While she's doing that, you have to pay interest rate. The interest rate per month can be a couple $100. Mm-hmm. If she's working for minimum wage, how can she afford that? So we said, no, do not allow a lady like that to pay that. Or don't allow them to pay that. That is a gift to the students. So the students have lower interest rates. Ask them. Even those who were paying saw a drop in their monthly payments. We need to say that. They need to say we have benefited as students in our payments from this government. We have delivered that. So we have delivered a significant number of things from our own promises, even with the challenges that we are facing. Lowest ever interest rate, no payments of interest during study, and that is not added to your loan. You start to pay back Development Bank 4.25 years after you would have received your first disbursement, which is the beginning of your studies. We have gotten scholarships from all over, even full scholarships to the United States of America, which was something we never heard of in our country. So if you look at what we are delivering, hospital, I told the people we'll get a brand new hospital. It's on its way. I told Keyon we'll resolve the water problem. Keyon has one of the best water supplies in St. Kitts today. I told them we'll resolve the water problem. We are building desalination plants, and in 2 or 3 weeks, I will be commissioning with the minister responsible for water, the Honorable Conway Maynard, the desalination plant at Canada Estate. That will be the first public desalination
It's almost finished?
It's almost finished. It's going to be finished by the end of this month. And our desalination plant, the 2 million gallon, will be finished next year because we want to restore water supply. And then the energy end, we are pushing hard on our renewable energy to decrease the energy costs in St. Kitts and Nevis. We have, of course, looked at, so I want us to look at that. We introduced the one-to-one laptop program, and we have given iPads to the children in primary school. It's done. All of that is done. Education, healthcare, the pension plans, the increase in wages, the increase in salaries. All of that we have done. Stabilize the CBI program, stabilize Development Bank, stabilize Social Security. All of that has been done. So I would say it will be challenging because of things, but in time you will see all those promises being made. It's like you said, let's build this house in 6 months. There might be a nudge here and there. You have to put it back a bit further. It is what happens, but you are striving always to stay on point. But even with the challenges, we have achieved a significant number of the promises that we made to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. And I'm extremely proud of that and the work from our ministers or my colleagues who have done extremely well. So I can pull a list at any point and we can go through them. There will be some that we are working on, but we have achieved a significant number of the promises that we made to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Thank you for that. I'm going to challenge you on, not hard, but I like analogies. My friends do say I like analogies. Right. So let's have another analogy. So a lot of times in interpersonal relationship, boyfriend, girlfriend, you have a situation where you can have a dynamic where one of the parties, persons is not happy.
Right.
And they're communicating their struggles and what they're dealing with. And you may say, well, I give you all the money that you want. How can you not be happy? And that person can say, well, that's not how I receive love. I receive love in other ways. I need you to do this. And you keep saying, well, no, but I'm doing this. You should be happy. Right now, we have people who are, there's a cohort of people who are of the view that things are not going well. And how do you communicate or affirm whatever it is that they are saying or feeling and placate that with what you have just said? Because what you've just said are things that should mitigate against what they're crying out about. So how do you validate that? And because if we're coming here saying everything is good, you are going to alienate those who are actually.
So I'm not saying everything is good at all. I'm saying there are challenges.
I know, but there are challenges. But at the same time, when you say that there are challenges, I don't think that we are giving enough airtime to those challenges. So in these on this platform, it will rub off those people who are experiencing those challenges, who would not want to hear anything that we're talking about because it's not really applying to them. So how do we validate them emotionally, financially, holistically, and try our best to make sure they're heard?
Right. And that is critically important. That is why I'm here this morning. And I'm happy that you are bringing their voices because I hear them. What I would also say that you must recognize, you use the analogy of a girlfriend, and you must have seen this. A girl or somebody can be in a good relationship.
Yeah.
And you are doing what has to be done. But if they have somebody out there speaking negativity in their ears, they can't even recognize what they have because somebody's beating negativity in their ears. That happens as well. So we know that there are those out there whose job it is to make everything look like doom and gloom. And they are doing that. How can you have the country in the CARICOM with the #1 Human Development Index and try to paint a picture of doom and gloom? So let's also say that there's a concentrated, planned, negative smear campaign against the government. That I want to be put on the table as well because it is there. Now let's look at those who are having challenges. And we can't just put their challenges aside. We have to deal with their challenges. One of the things that people are having challenges with is, for example, the cost of living because of inflation. The inflation I would put on the table is one that we have been dealing with in all the subsidies that we have been given. However, a lot of the inflation is imported to St. Kitts and Nevis from the cost in the United States and so forth. And that inflation is affecting us. And so our people are feeling some of that. The other matter that is happening, for example, we gave, for example, if you go to the step, we gave them the increase in the minimum wage. If you calculate the increase in the minimum wage, it means, therefore, that whereas only some people were receiving the $500, each step person will see effectively about $250 increase in their monthly income, each of them from salary base, putting them in a much better position. Correct. So what has to happen as well, I think, even if you look at the civil servants with an increase in pay of 8%. So when you look closely at what we have delivered compared to what people will talk about with their challenges, which we take seriously, you would recognize that we have done a lot to mitigate it. However, there are challenges that, especially inflation-related, that are affecting our people. And that we are seeking to deal with, and we don't take it for granted. For example, we put a commission for price control together. But sometimes, let's say you buy a Kellogg's cornflakes and you bring it into St. Kitts. The cost is increasing in the United States. And when it comes to St. Kitts and Nevis, there's very little more you can do to lower the cost.
Correct.
Because you import the cost of it. So I want to submit that the crux of the matter is part of it is the inflation and the cost of living, where some of it is beyond our control. What I want to say to those is that because we're going to see an increase, an improvement in terms of construction, agriculture, all these projects, producing much more jobs for our people, that will also help to ease the burden of them once you have more circulation within the economy as well. That will help. So they're asking, what is the relief is going to be? This is what the relief is going to be. We are seeking to do all of this. The truth is, these challenges that are there, we are working systematically on each of them. So I acknowledge, for example, that there are challenges with cost of food that we have really tried to deal with the cost of fuel and energy and so forth, so that that can help to temper the cost. If you look at the data, St. Kitts and Nevis has one of the lowest rates of inflation at this point in time across the OECS countries, and the heaviest subsidies. That is a fact across the board. So I know it is a challenge, and I don't take it lightly. That is why we offer so much help. Your child go to college for free. We gave them laptops. We gave them iPads, scholarships, a lot of different things. We have even set up a fund for children who are ill. These children used to die. I mean, imagine these children used to walk around, their parents walk around with sponsor sheets, and their children die because they couldn't raise enough money. Those are the things that we have put in place, and I think part of it is we also have to say we know, but this is what the government has done as well. And we continue to work on the many challenges that you have across. But there are two things we must acknowledge. There is a deliberate smear campaign to discredit a lot of the things that the government is doing, and to make people feel, how can you convince an educated person that getting an 8% increase is the same as your double salary, and it puts you on a better footing as compared to just give you a lump sum in double salary? It has to be a deliberate action to convince people that getting the lump sum double salary once a year is better than having a sustained increase in salary, which can help you to build a better financial future.
Correct.
So those are the things I'm discussing. How can that fact not be seen as improvement in your life when it is obviously an improvement? So that type of campaign is taking place as well. So I'm aware and I acknowledge that. So if there are specific things we can discuss, then we will discuss them. For example, let's talk about the PAP program. The PAP program, what we recognize is that was being paid for from the CBI as well.
Let's stick a pin on that,
Yes.
because we have to take a break.
Okay, good.
To recognize our sponsors,
Yes.
TDC and Carib, and the conversation has been going well. We are having a brand new, just a temporary new time for Inside the News today, which started at going forward.
Yes.
It's going to be at 10 a.m. So you're the inaugural new time person
Yes.
on this. So let's inaugural guest for the new time.
I
Thank
think
you.
that's very good, because sometimes you come, you have to take a break, hear the news, and then have the break.
Yes.
But yes.
This is contiguous.
Yes, this is contiguous, and this, I think, will make a big
I like that. So we'll be right back.
Thanks.
WINN is 98.9. 98.9 is WIN FM.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
TDC Financial Services, we're here for you to help you make your dreams come true. Whether your needs are big or small, we'll support you with them all. TDC Financial Services, we are strong. TDC Financial Services, this is where you belong.
TDC Financial Services, where money is made easy.
People make the world go
Welcome to the second half of what has been a very fruitful and, might I add, transparent conversation with the Prime Minister of our great federation. He has not done the usual dance. Politicians they like to dance with the stars, and they dance around questions. He has been very honest and has not shied away from anything that has been asked. And I've been able to ask him the difficult questions and questions that we also have felt burning in our hearts. And so this second half of the conversation, we're going to touch on national security. This is a hot topic. We are going to also touch on healthcare and the budget and a little bit more on tourism. Mm-hmm. And so the first half was heavy on the economy, yes. Promises that were made and also keeping each of us honest mm-hmm. in terms of validating what we are going through mm-hmm. and also validating what the government is trying to help us through what we're feeling. And the general gist of that, let me give you guys the ChatGPT summary of what was had during that first half. They mean well, and they did not anticipate some of what they met when they got into office. And in doing that, priorities had to be recalibrated. And so we're now going to see, based on what he's saying, 2025, you're going to see a lot of those promises coming to fruition. And at the end of 2025, you will be hearing people singing songs about how things are going well.
All right.
Okay.
Yes. But I can say there are a lot of people who are saying that now. Sometimes when things are going well, for some people, not because there's a large subset of people where things are going well, we must admit it as well. Mm-hmm. So when things are going well, you just move along and, you don't shout as much, right? Yeah, which is part of the human thing.
No news is good news, like my mommy says.
Exactly. That is the point. If you're in a good relationship and things going well, you just live your life.
That is true.
If going bad, you make noise here, you make noise here, you call here, and you will think that if you judge that one relationship, you'll think all of the relationships are going bad. So there's a good number of people, I dare submit, who are having things much better. Since the government changed, I can just touch one sector, the hotel and tourism sector, and all those taxi drivers. That's one sector. But we can touch other sectors. All those people who never got their GAE pensions, and they're getting them. That's another sector. Mm-hmm. Right. I'll go to another sector, for example. For those who are working for minimum wage and seeing an increase in their minimum wage. That's another sector. So I can go from sector to sector and show where we are doing better. For example, policemen and all those who got the honorarium and increased pay. So when you look at the overall there, even though things are there are challenges, I still want to submit that there's something in there to feel good about. For example, I had a call from a call on another show who spoke about her eyes and that she went for 3 jobs and she got 2. But what people did not realize is that the eye clinic at JNF was basically non-functional. No equipment, not even a microscope was working. The microscope is what you use to see to the back of the eye, to diagnose and then to treat as well. We brought in new microscope, new surgical equipment, all of that. So that call, I think, could have said, I'm so happy that the government, this new government, invested hundreds of thousands of US dollars in state-of-the-art equipment at the eye clinic so that I could have gone and get a procedure if I need one and get a diagnosis if I need one. But instead of saying that, the caller concentrated on what they couldn't get. Whereas under the previous administration, they would not get any at all, because diagnosis was difficult and medication was also difficult. So we have, in that alone, I can say we have saved a lot of people from blindness. We have resolved a lot of blindness. We are preventing a lot of blindness, and people became blind that are irreversible because there were no equipment at the hospital to take care of the eyes. So just trying to tell you, if they were to put that in perspective, so if you listen to that person, you'll think, wow, you couldn't get 2 eye jobs, wow. But never did that person mention that when I went there was state-of-the-art equipment there to diagnose me, to help me. So I may not have gotten 100%, but I'm much better off with my eye care than I was before. That could have simply been said. That is what I'm talking about, that there are challenges, but at least acknowledge.
I agree. And
Acknowledge
that's my train of thought.
Yes, acknowledge that, because it's a fact, right? But I wanted to move on. I don't know which other topic you wanted to touch.
I want to touch on crime.
Yes,
because this is a next hot burning topic.
Yeah.
And whichever way we want to look at this, it has not been a very good year when it comes to that. It's been a very difficult year for lots of families. And I never once felt that crime should be used as, like people, for lack of a better term, a political football. The hearts of those who want to commit crimes are the propensity for that is always just going to be there. However, the analogy beckons again. The government is like a parent, and we, the people, are children. And so it is, if your child does poorly in school, if your child is not doing well or is belligerent, you are called as the parent to be held accountable for your child's actions. And so being as you all are in power, the onus is on you all to be held accountable, and for not for the crime, but for the mitigation and of everything that you can do to make sure that it gets better. And you had a 90-day campaign against crime, and I want to know how that worked, if it worked at all, and what else are we going to see that's going to be doing well in our fight against crime?
So let me say that the matter of I said and I held all the time that the way the so-called peace program was structured, that it was only a matter of time until we see an explosion.
It was a ticking time bomb.
Yes, I said that even before the election.
Yes.
And I said, even then, why don't you bring all of us in to sit at the table, opposition, and remove crime as a political football? I asked for that. Because even in opposition, I recognize that the issue of crime and violence should not be used as a political football. Some people would ask me, but if you do that with the government, it will be a win for the government. I say, well, if we all sit together and come up with meaningful ideas and strategies to deal with it, I live in St. Kitts and Nevis, so that will be my benefit. So I will choose another issue to debate politics. Not this one. This is too critically. I had started in St. Peter's doing a lot of social work. I started extra classes. We started a group in St. Peter's called the Eagle Boys Group, which I started with Miss Mary Clark, Anita Davis, and Shauna Maynard. And we accounted for every boy in the St. Peter's community. And we set up a program and started to mentor them. I was the president of the football, the basketball, and to a great extent we had success in limiting the establishment of gangs in St. Peter's. I knew that if there is enough intervention and working together, there's something that can be done. So that is the premise on which I did not want to use crime as a political football. And I always held that the communities must come together. And so crime has to be dealt with holistically, and it has to be dealt with evidence-based approaches. And one of the worst things you can think of is that if you don't want to do the hard work of helping from early on and setting good parameters under which we can establish a proper system and strategy, you will end up with a program like what was done in Ecuador, what was done in Haiti, what was done in areas in Jamaica, Trinidad, where you are thinking you can pay for peace. You can't pay for peace. It only would end up where those countries have ended up. And I said that in opposition. Look at the examples. This is where we are heading. At some point, it will burst. Let us sit together and come up with good ideas so we can truly help our people and help the young men. Because I had started that in St. Peter's with others to help them. So let me put that as the backdrop. Mm-hmm. However, getting in, we recognize that there were issues. Remember again, COVID was a big part of this. And in COVID, if you lock down the country, you're not going to see any crime. You agree?
Correct.
So if you lock down the country from 2020 to 2022 and everybody inside, you have chance to commit a crime. If I say tomorrow lock down the country, any country lock down their country, that's it. That is why Jamaica is using the strategy of curfews in certain areas. Because if they put a curfew in a particular area and people can't move, what do you think would happen to the crime rate during the curfew period?
Goes down.
Of course. So let's put that in perspective, okay? So that is the first thing I want to say. Part of it is because a good part of it was during the COVID years. Notwithstanding, there has to be good aspects to everything, but they should be bettered. So I've always held that the communities need to come together. If you recognize what I did is that I brought everybody together, all the political parties.
Yes.
Myself, PLP, PAM, NRP, CCM, whatever the active political parties are, I said all of us need to come together. At that time, we said to the community that we are standing against crime and violence of any form. Then we said we're going to launch a 90-day campaign and put a task force together. Let me ask you, have you seen any improvement from August to now?
It's not. It hasn't been as hot as it was.
As I can tell you, it's significantly lower. That must be acknowledged. Ask the people, look at it. Things have happened, but there has been a significant improvement because it's a specific period of time. And the question that you ask, what happened during that time? In addition to that, we have done a number of other things with our 90-day campaign. One, consultations. We had consultations in Sandy Point just recently where we had about 60 boys. We had consultations in Nevis with the Christian Council, consultations with sport teams. So we have been going around the country, meeting the people where they are and having these consultations. That's one. Two, at the prison level, we have reinstituted or we have put in place a robust rehabilitation program. We have started classes that are on their way, about 5 subjects. We have also started a rehabilitation program for the women in prison. We have started a prison to work program. Any prisoner who is leaving, we assess them and we get them work. Many of them might start on this step as a transition, and we guarantee them work for 6 months while we are working through, because some of them come out with skills where they might be able to go on their own, but we give them that. We have restarted in earnest the prison farm, We have started life skills training in prison. We have now started a program of where we will have the prisoners can see their children as a hope program. So we have started classes, farming, courses, life skills, a rehabilitation program, prison to work or reintegration, and a program where you don't deprive the prisoners of being able to see their children. That program is being put in place because we recognize we needed to go there. Because we really want to help our people to reintegrate as well. And the Elevate program, which we have done as a evidence-based, we have developed modules which we are taking the participants through. And we are attaching them to different areas for them to become certified. That is the next step. We want them to be certified in a number of things. Solar panel certification, auto mechanic, what do you want to do? Farm programs. These are the things that are actually being put in place presently. So we have a holistic approach of bringing everybody together from the prison, outside, at-risk youth, or youth who are not even at risk. So we have expanded our cadet program. If you look, there are more young cadets in, because that's a way you can bring young men in and give them that disciplinary training. We have also expanded our scout program. So if you go to the school, and Pastor Saunders has been incorporating the scouts and spreading the scouts through the schools, which mainly attract young men. We are moving to get back the brownies and the guys. And one of the things that we are going to say with our Aspire program is that each child should be a part of an organization, a disciplinary organization. Then we have invested, and all these are social programs. The last one I'll mention is the law enforcement. We have invested back in our canine unit. We have invested back into scanners in the prison and at also customs that have been down for a long time. We have reinvested in them. We have reinvested heavily in the Coast Guard and its systems. We have improved the operations of the police force and the military with significant help from the RSS, the FBI, and so forth. That is why the detection rate has gone up. We have also invested from the legal standpoint in terms of having enough prosecutors and a DPP with a robust office so that he can carry out the cases. We have invested in the technology, some of which I will not mention today, but we have a lot of technology involved that has significantly impacted our detection rate. So what we are seeing is not because of happenstance. And you ask about the 90 day. And if you go see when the 90 days started, and then go and look and see during that 90 day, what happened. Because there has to be a line in the sand, correct?
Actually, when you talk about a line, I said something earlier in the first half. I think you have a branding problem.
Yes.
To be very honest, I think that we should have already seen a visual of this data.
Yes.
Easy to consume.
Easy to consume.
Easy to understand.
Yes.
And you just put that there.
So what we're going to do, we have started a Facebook page called Citizen Security, which we're now going to link to SKNS. We have also put out a competition of what is the logo, because we're going to establish an Office of Citizen Security for perpetuity. It's not going to just be a one-off thing, because we're now going into beyond the 90 days. This Citizen Security Secretariat will function forever as far as we are concerned, and will deal to manage the security of the country. And you are right in terms of the branding, but we had a logo competition. The results will be released next week. Because this is not, everything is being done systematically on evidence, so that is not a quick patch. And then next year go back to the same thing, or some other time. No. Throughout the Caribbean, there have been quick patches, either thinking you can pay for peace, or either thinking you can put all the law enforcement on the ground and so forth. What we want are social programs that will really help people, all of our society. So I can tell you the branding is coming. We had multiple submissions from the community, and they're going to launch the branding. So we're going to have the final consultation. It's just because it's not the final consultation and you asked about it. The final consultation will be had at the end of the 90 day, We have collected a lot of data because of the consultation. So we'll bring that back to the people. Remember when I started the 90 Day, I had a meeting at Kuna where the criminologists from USAID gave St. Kitts data and showed how bad the gang situation was. And this was all before us. So I want to refer you back to that data. And they asked me, would you give the public this? I said, yes. The public needs to know that we have a serious problem and that the only way we can deal with it is if we come together. I think I will share his presentation with you, but it's all out there. So what we have said, we're going to deal with the issue of violence from a public health perspective, which is a scientifically proven, evidence-based approach to dealing with violence. Not just crime, because not every violent act equals a crime.
Correct.
A mother verbally abusing a child is causing damage
Yeah.
to the child. That is violence, but it is not a crime to some extent, right? Because you would just say, she talk hard to, because what are you going to do? Right? It has to pass a threshold for it to become a crime. So we can see violent acts that don't reach the level of criminal activity, because a crime is a definite legal definition, so to speak, in describing what type of act is a crime.
Actually,
And
sorry to interrupt
Yeah.
you, but you brought up something that triggered me.
Yes.
Have we seen a correlation, or have we collected enough data to see the correlation that exists between childhood trauma and
Yes.
crime?
Yes. We have
Okay,
that.
so good. So I'm going somewhere. So if we have that, then that means we can extrapolate that data and see the children of this generation and forecast
Yes.
what our crime level will be if we are not responding to the
Correct.
data.
Correct.
Okay, and I don't know if the data is accurate here at our prison, but at least in the US and the
It's
UK,
very accurate.
50% of those incarcerated are actually dyslexic.
Yes. You know, not to cut you off,
Right.
I asked, because I'm a medical doctor, and I'll give you some background of me studying behavioral science with Dr. Frank. I asked them recently to start to do those studies in the prison.
Thank you.
And guess what? They discovered dyslexic patients.
Thank you. Thank you.
When she
Thank you.
reported, the head of the rehabilitation program reported, guess what? We went to the special education to get the specialists in dyslexia. They gave them the tests. We had prisoners who can't read, not because they're not intelligent, but because they're dyslexic.
Okay.
Right now, I
Thank
can
you.
tell you from her report, the 3 of them cannot read. For the first time in their lives, within the last few months, is the first time they recognize a word.
This should be clipped and played on the news, by the
Yes.
way, because dyslexia week
You hit the
month
nail
was
on
last
it.
month.
Yes. So you can contact the head of rehabilitation in the prison if you want to hear her speak about it.
Yes.
She contacted the head of special ed. Because people think special ed is because you are not intelligent. These are highly intelligent
Yes.
people, but the brain is wired in a particular way.
Correct.
And I have said in that meeting where the Minister of Education was, and he pays attention to detail, that every child must have a test. Because if these young men were diagnosed at 5, 7, they were on a different path.
Thank you. Drop the mic.
Yes. So I want you to
I've been
contact-
pounding the
Yes.
pavement for this because
Yes.
if we see that there's a correlation, then
Yes.
no child
Yes.
at primary school
Yes.
should be chastised because they can't read fast enough. They can't
Exact-
write
Yes.
65 or 60 or what.
Yes.
Listen, it's a problem.
Yes.
And I see children who are beaten
Yes.
because they can't do things like other people
Of
or like
course.
regular people, and we're not acknowledging their differences. And what ends up happening is that they're not validated, they're not affirmed, they feel like they're misfits, and they self-placate.
Yes.
And crime
Yes.
becomes
an option and a good viable option for them. So I brought that.
Thank you.
And the name of the officer, because it's public, is Miss Hodge. Contact Miss Hodge in the prison and ask her for the numbers.
I want
Ask her
them.
who-
I
ask
speak
her, tell
about
her that
this
the Prime
very
Minister
often.
spoke to me. Let me tell you why. I work with Dr. Frank. Dr. Frank was the owner of the first biomedical center that we call the Monkey Farm. He was a behavioral scientist. And so I went to work with him as I was planning to, of course, go into medicine and so forth. He told me then, because the crime was picking up in St. Kitts and Nevis. He said, I can say to you, Terrance, he called me, of course, that if I go to the prison and start to do tests on these prisoners, a lot of them would have treatable learning disabilities.
Yep.
He told me that. Dr. Frank told me that. And so I said, I have that knowledge because I've studied this. And I asked them to go in the prison and test. She tested. And she discovered prisoners with dyslexia would have never recognized one word in their life. And not because of the intervention can read.
So we could start that from the primary school levels.
So that will start.
We should push and pound the pavement.
Yes, exactly. So I'm just saying that we have gone, that is a detail to which we are tackling the issue.
I like that.
Because a lot of these young men, we just can't talk about lock up and throw away the key. No. A lot of them, if you go and find out what the issues are, a lot of the issues are issues that you can solve, such as all through their life they were being called dumb, stupid, you know how we are, by sometimes their own parents or sometimes their own classmates because they can't read. It affects their self-esteem. They feel left out. And for those, I'm not saying all of them, but for those who could have been saved, and you call a good number, because he told me it was approximately that number. Because I was asking him, because he wanted to prove to me that black people were the rate of incarceration in the U.S. was highest. But he said it's not because black people are prone to commit crime, as those who don't like black people would say, the racists. He said it's because they don't have the opportunity to be diagnosed and treated as in the white communities. So I asked myself the question, if we know this, why are we not applying it here?
Thank you.
So talk to Ms. Hodge. Call if you want that to be a part of your news. Call her.
Please.
Say, Ms. Hodge, please, the Prime Minister speak about
the pavement,
this.
But not just that, but that means education reform has to take this into consideration moving forward.
Yes. Every child should be tested before they go in to make sure that this is to see whatever diagnosis. And saying it can be done because, most of the children, the vast majority, will not have the issue. So you can have a screening, and a screening can rule out. So you can say, okay, 90% don't have. But that 10% is the only 10% you might have to fully test, move on, because you can do a screening test. Can you read? If you can read, oh, good. You can say this person definitely don't have dyslexia. So you can move them out. Those who have challenges now, let's dig down and see why they're not reading at the level. And then you will discover these issues, and then you can put in place quickly the remedial action.
Well, invest in the teachers being trained how to deal with students who learn differently.
Good. And so that, I think, would have a tremendous impact. And we discovered it. So speak to her. Once you mention it, I felt validated to some extent as well.
Thank you.
That you researched it.
Yes.
You looked it up.
Yes.
You saw the numbers.
Yes.
I know the numbers because I studied it with Dr. Frank Irvin when he was at the Biomedical Center studying neurological diseases and behavioral science. And I had the opportunity to study with him. And this is one of the things I will never forget, he said to me. So he was saying to me, do not buy in ever that black people are more prone to this. It's because black people are not given the opportunity that others are given. And we're not going to deprive our people of that opportunity. And she said to me, they're so happy, the other ones. Man, let me teach you the others. Let's see what's happening here. They want to read. God, it's the first time they're identifying words in their lives as an adult. And not because they lack intelligence. These are highly intelligent people. But they just had a different wiring of their brain that nobody identified. And they suffered traumatic brain or psychological issues for their whole life. So I just wanted to spend a little time on that just to show you how deep we are going with dealing with the issue of violence. That is how far we are going.
Awesome.
We have also set up with Elevate psychologists to start counseling. So a number of them are going through counseling, and we are expanding our counseling offerings. We are setting up classes where we are going to offer the traditional ones and technical ones as well, where they can go back to school or go back to class and learn. And guess what? We have reformed persons who are now becoming the teachers as well. And that is powerful. For example, one of the reformed persons is hired by the Ministry of Education, and his students had 100% pass rate in maths. He had the highest in the country.
Wow.
He has 23 subjects. That's a reformed person. So we are saying that there are persons who can be reformed. And that's powerful. So when he steps into a class, look, I was there, but I'm here, so you can come here. The prison has also started a program where they take prisoners to some of the schools to speak to some of the students, especially some of the young men, about, look, change your life. You don't want to come into prison. To kind of impact them in that way. So that's an outreach from the prison as well, so that that message can be sent to the next generation. You really don't want to be in here. I am here. And trust me, you don't want to come here. Choose a different path. All that is happening. And I say all of that to say it's a holistic approach that we are taking. Even sports. We started a sport program with the National Intervention Team within the police force. We had a massive sports program with a group from England, Great Britain, and we had about 200 young people, mostly boys, where we use football to really talk to them about how to be good people, give them the skills and so forth. And it was massive. And today I can say a couple of those young men are going to England to pursue opportunities in football. So we are using that avenue so that they can get opportunities as well. All of this is happening presently, and you will see it at the end of the 90-day, because there will be a national report. We started the 90-day, and there will be a national report back to the country as to what was done during the 90-day, and then we go beyond the 90 days. So look, if you can look it up, see when the 90 days started, see what our results are, and you will see a significant improvement.
Let me ask you something, because this is...
Just looking at the data, just look at it.
I'm looking
because
right
I think the
here.
90 days started in August.
So I see you launched this at CUNA on the 6th of September.
That was a consultation.
Okay. And I'm trying to find where... Okay, I see it now.
Yeah.
Okay, 90-day campaign against crime. And it says launched the 90-day on the 6th of September at CUNA. So it was September.
So that's 6th of September, so you finish around the 6th, September, October, November, December. So you're going to finish the 6th of December, which is very soon.
Okay.
Right. So if you look now at your data during that time.
Well, that's what I said. We needed a visual.
Yeah. So you're going to get it.
Represents that.
So at the end of the 90 day, you'll see all of that. Right. So I just wanted to let you know that it's not by accident or anything. It's because we're taking the holistic approach. And the holistic approach is to really help to reform people and to work upstream and not downstream, and that everything should work together. And that is why we said deal with it from a public health perspective, because it's a public health issue. Just like violence is like, think of a virus. Think of a virus, I wouldn't use COVID, I would say the flu virus, for example, which we catch every year. Somebody can be infected with it. What does the doctor tell that person? You have to treat it. So if you have somebody who is carrying out these acts, they're infected with those violence acts, trauma causing it, you want to separate them from the rest of the people and to prevent them from transmitting it. Correct?
Correct.
Those who are susceptible are those who we are talking about. The children diagnosed with dyslexia, in traumatic situations, they're risk youth. You want to make sure that risk to catch it, one, you don't want them to be exposed, and two, you want to strengthen their system as you'll strengthen your immune system so you don't get the flu. Correct?
Yeah.
And then once you do all of that, but if you catch the flu and you are ill, then measures have to be taken. This is where law enforcement comes in to separate you.
You spoke about strength, and let me tell you what is lacking in the schools. These are just things that I've been talking about for a long time. We do not teach or focus heavily on empathy and kindness.
Correct.
I think that every primary school should have 30 minutes each week on just teaching empathy, kindness, those life skills that relate to interpersonal skills and how you treat each other.
So
emotional regulation,
you're
all
very
of those things. Because my daughter has been trained to understand her emotions, how to speak to others, not to hit, all of those things, not to react. And I over-celebrate, not the 80s and 90% that she gets, but when she's kind to other people. And I find that as a society, we have not placed that on a high echelon as
should
we
be-
do.
and should be the highest.
It should be the highest, but we place the academic stuff
Yes.
on the highest level.
And that's a
And
problem.
I say, like I said, me and my daughter, we have these conversations
Yes.
almost every week. How did you speak to this person? How did you relate to them? And it's working.
Yes.
It's working. And the school she went to, also her preschool, Key Babies, Kimon, big shout out to you. Same thing. From early, they prioritize interpersonal skills quicker than the reading and writing. And you
Correct.
can see a big difference. So I think
Yes.
that we need to, education reform and crime reform go hand in hand.
And that is why in the schools where the intervention is, because it has to be at the school level, we are saying a lot of these, we don't even have to invent the wheel again. If you go to the guides, the brownies, the scouts, the boys brigades, a big part, the fundamental part of their training is exactly what you are saying.
Thank you.
That's what it is about. So when you come to the scouts, they teach you a lot of things that are fun, but at the end of the day, what they're teaching you is how to be a good person. And they have a track record of doing that. You go to the brownies, you go to the guides. Growing up, everybody had to be part of an organization where you get those. So we now moving to institutionalize that.
Thank you.
Because you might have somebody they have a propensity to like something better than the other, and you should give them a choice. So even if they go, let's say, to sports, the sports should be incorporating that in it. If they go to just scouts, it should be incorporating that. But we know these organizations already have those embedded. So part of it is that they really should be part of one of these organizations that has that objective, and that the school really should be looking at this. And I know the Minister of Education is fully committed to this as well. So we are going to see that reform, which has already started,
Thank you.
as it goes deeper and deeper. Because again, this issue of violence can be dealt with, but it has to be dealt with from a societal input, in the sense that all of us are on the same page when it comes to resolving the matter. And in addition to that, it's not just about law enforcement. It's about all the other things, the holistic approach to give people a good chance to be a good citizen and to live a good life. The lives of the young men mean a lot to me. They should be given a real chance. Anybody should be given a chance. And therefore, that is what we are aiming for. So I would say it's a challenge, but I encourage you to also look at it. And just now, in a couple of weeks, we'll be able to say, okay, this is the 90-day. These are the results from the 90-day. And this is beyond, because we're now going beyond the 90 days.
Thank you.
So that we can continue to foster an environment where we can have our citizens be given real opportunities, and opportunities to do good, and not opportunities to get involved in criminal activities.
Well, we're going to segue into like you spoke about education. I see the Bastia High School is also a topic of discussion, where persons are still saying, like, what's going on, and, they haven't seen anything. And we saw the land was cleared. And, you said it's in the pipeline, just as the hospital is. So can you speak a little bit more?
Right.
About
So the hospital is not in the pipeline. The hospital is being done.
it's being done?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can tell you that.
Okay.
It's being done. Right. So they're doing all the engineering work and all the soil testing and all those preliminary
Behind the
things
scenes.
behind the scenes
Okay.
that are part of the building of the school of the hospital, that you may not see a block going up. Before you put up a block, all of this fundamental work
Correct.
must be done. So the hospital is actually being done, not in the pipeline.
Wow.
The school in itself is actually being done. It is not in the pipeline.
Similar to what's happening with the hospital.
To the
same things
hospital.
okay.
Remember, again, we had to do all the soil testing and everything to make sure the engineering and there are no threats or anything like that. I can say clearly that from all the studies, there were never an issue with Bastia High School to the point that was being exposed. The research showed that. But we wanted to make sure that we do all of the necessary testing. The plans, I think, are almost finalized, if not finalized by now. I think because you go through different iterations, that is part of it. But you clear the land, and you clear the land to put your points down, test here,
Correct.
test there, all of that. So it's on its way. I can say that here. So it's interesting that people are asking that this government builds the Bastia High School in less than 2 years. And the previous government that said that something was wrong with the Bastia High School, said something was wrong, and never did anything in 7 years that was substantial. As a matter of fact, I'm going to bring to the people the $14 to $21 million that was spent on the Bastia High School, and not one brick was laid. That I have spoken about in Parliament. That I will table. Because you just have to account for that. That's a significant amount of money. Since we have gotten there, we have broken down the old Bastia High School. It had become dilapidated. So if you said that the school was contaminated, how is it you did not move to break it down? So we broke it down and we moved it. And so I can say to you that is in. But in education in general, laptops out, iPads are given, not iPads, tablets. We have colleges free, reduce interest and student loan, reduce easier to get student loans as well. We have increased the subvention for preschool. So if you have a child in preschool, you used to get $25, we increased it to $50. So the parents are getting more money for the children in preschool, and all the way up to college is free, and in between is free as well. Significant investments in the children. And lastly to say, the Aspire program. I spent 2 minutes on the Aspire program at the end. Good. So we dealt with education in that sense.
Yeah.
Healthcare, if you want me to touch that, I'll just touch on
Yes.
it. Even before we speak about the new hospital, we are making significant investments in this old hospital, because we're going to turn it into a polyclinic so that it takes pressure off of the real hospital. A polyclinic would have extended hours and more services. You'll be able to go there and take your blood and so forth. You won't have to go necessarily to the hospital to do that. Let me tell you, we now have an endoscopic conference here. Caribbean Endoscopic Society is here. I think it's for the first time because we built out an endoscopic suite. Endoscopy is where you do colonoscopy, pass a camera up the anal passage into the bowel to see what the problems and to treat as well. And you can pass it down, and then you can do minimally in surgeries, right? Invasive surgeries. And I mean, I want to shout out SKNS. SKNS is so advanced in its technology that it carried the surgeries live. But of course, you had to be a doctor with a special pass to access it. So I was in my office, I put a picture up. You should check my Facebook, where I was sitting at my desk looking at the surgery taking place at JNF from my computer. First time ever in St. Kitts and Nevis. That is how advanced we are with our technology. We have also invested in the foyer with the cable, TDC, and others. Go up and see the entrance.
It looks pretty.
It's pretty. It's beautiful. And we're going to continue to do that. We have our CT scan, which we'll install on the 20th of December. It will be one of 4 in the whole of the Caribbean. The MRI building is being constructed presently. We fixed the leaky roof of the hospital. The hospital was leaking for a long time. We fixed the leaking roof. We have more dialysis machines at the hospital, the highest number of specialists ever in our history, the highest concentration of equipment ever in our history at JNF, to the point where we could have held such a prestigious endoscopic societies meeting at a level that all of them say St. Kitts has really demonstrated it has arrived. Excellently done. I want to thank Dr. Woodley, Dr. Grant, Dr. Amory, and all those, and the nurses and so forth who are involved. But I must shout out SKNS with the step up in the technology. So I will say that to the point where in healthcare we had no deaths of any child between 1 and 4 in 2023. The only country on earth that did that. No deaths. And it's because we put the Children's Medical Fund in place as well. So I told the people I will eliminate sponsorships. So if the child gets sick, they don't have to have a sponsorship. They can call me directly or come to my office. My office is open to receive those mothers and fathers and parents and guardians. Right now, we had 2 children who within the last 2 weeks received heart surgeries as a result of the fund. They would have been dead had it not been for us. But I don't advertise the children for obvious reasons. You remember that child from Nevis who suffered the injury in the neck. I speak about it because the father put it out there. It was because of our fund that he's alive today. Our fund was able to get in within 24 hours and get him to Trinidad to get the life-saving surgery. Because if you don't get that in time, you die. Or if you recover, your chances of regaining strength and mobility is almost zero. And so, because of that fund. And so we brought back eye surgeries. Too many people were going blind in St. Kitts and Nevis under the former administration. Now we have state-of-the-art equipment. And now Rams is coming back to invest with us in that as well. We have a neurologist who deals with nerves. We have an endocrinologist who deals with hormones. We have 4 internists at the hospital presently. We have 3 anesthesiologists presently. We have 2 full-time radiologists plus the highest number of radiographers.
And I see you have a quality assurance person.
Yes, and we have a quality assurance person, and that is to increase over time the quality of care. Because the JNF had been going through a lot for a long time. I want to remind people, remember you had an ambulance without oxygen. I don't even want to go back there because I might open wounds for parents. And we have eliminated that. And let me say, apart from the CT scan, MRI, and all of the fixings that we are doing, we have ordered a new fleet of ambulances. They will be here in February of 2025. And those would be the Toyota brand, which has been proven to work well in our setting. So I will say that if you want to test our healthcare system, check the deaths of children, the deaths of pregnant women, and if countries are looking to us as a serious country to hold meetings such as the Endoscopic Society here in St. Kitts and Nevis. So those things I'll put on the table. However, I must admit that there continue to be challenges as well. I acknowledge them, and we are working through them. Because at the end of the day, there will be challenges. What I want to put to people is that we are working through them. Just go to the hospital and you'll see the tremendous efforts being made to work through them. The last thing I would say, we're not leaving mental health behind. We have joined up with the Republic of China, Taiwan, and we have launched our mental health initiative. We're going to do work on the psychiatric ward, which needs physical work, training our people. Mental health will be at the front burner. We are going to launch that very soon. We did an initial sign-in, and the launch of the actual program with the professionals who are here now is to take place. Mental health is a serious matter, and it will not be left behind. And we are going to do work at the psychiatric ward at the hospital. So those are high-level things, but I can tell you that we are on our way. So we touched on healthcare. I don't know if you wanted to touch on tourism.
Yeah, definitely, because tourism is a hot topic. Because do we have a problem with not having enough rooms?
Right.
Or do we have a problem with having too many rooms?
Well, it's good that we would have a problem of not having enough rooms.
I would like that to be the problem.
So again, we are seeing 1 million. We are projected to have over 1 million cruise passengers this year, in this season. The last time we did that was because there was a storm that affected St. Thomas and St. Martin. So the boats came here. We're not depending on any storm for this. And I want to thank the Minister of Tourism and her team, the Honorable Marsha Henderson, who have been working hard. So that's one. So the taxi drivers, and so we'll see an influx of tourists on the cruise level. From the hotel standpoint, we have increased our flights. Look at the numbers. We have gone, during this period last year, we were about 104,000. This year we are at 129,000 for the same period, a significant increase from 104,000 to 109,000. Tourism has grown 8 to 10% within that short time. It would have been, I could have said, if we had opened up in time, it would have been at about 15%. But that was a loss to us. We didn't calculate. We would have lost so much money. Again, that money could have been used for so many other things. But we just lost it. Because
and the taxi drivers, are they validating what you're saying?
Well, I can say clearly that they definitely have more jobs. We want to create more visitors here. I talked to one of them and they said, look, we are seeing more tours, for example. So there is some increase. There will always be room for increase, but I can say that there is increase. Right. So, and in terms of the rooms, we are working hard on the rooms. And I can say that I feel very, 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 very positive about the room stock here in St. Kitts and Nevis. So tourism is on the up and up. More flights, regionally, internationally, more tourists at the cruise, more passengers at the airport. It's growing, and the numbers are there to show that it's actually growing here in St. Kitts and Nevis. I don't know if there's any other specific topics, because I think you asked the hard question. I think the people sent you the questions. But I appreciate that, because that's the type of conversation I wanted to have here today. Not a conversation talking about all niceties, but the difficult conversations.
Awesome.
But it gives me the opportunity also to share the information with the people. And we should always be open and transparent. People understand life. It's not always going to be rosy, but you also want to appreciate, again, a lot of the things that have been done for our people. So if people are going to compare, we are number one. But I don't compare. I look at what else we can do for us, for our people here in St. Kitts and Nevis. That is what I think drove us to number one, because we were performing against ourselves and not performing not against anybody else. But what can we do better as a nation, as St. Kitts and Nevis?
Wow. I think what we really will benefit from, again, I spoke about a platform I'm going to show you after the
thank you so
conversation. Yeah. But we really need a way for us to juxtapose what people are saying isn't happening with what is actually undisputably happening. I don't think there's any better way for us to be able to make decisions as opposed to being able to be swayed by the masses and what they're saying. And so it's up to people like myself and people who are like-minded in this train of thought to provide us with the truth that is backed by evidence on what is.
Yes.
Because I listen, I like to educate myself. I like to listen to people who are not like me, people who are polarizing.
Yes.
I listen to everything. So I make my informed decisions.
Correct.
And so I think there is a need for that, especially in the next upcoming election cycle.
Correct.
And so I'm going to be, oh Lord, it's more work for me, but I'm going to be trying my best to be a part of the solution.
And get the facts out.
Right.
Yes, yes. Because I've held, if anybody just put the facts out, it would be critically important. Let me tell you why. Because perception, again, is important. People can perceive a lot of things based on the information that they have access to.
Correct.
May not be the truth, but if that's the information they have access to, they can actually believe that. So what you want is for people to have all of the information so that they can make an informed decision and have an informed position.
Correct.
Because that's the only way a democracy can truly work, that all citizens have the facts and so that they can make decisions based on facts and not based on what others are telling them, even when it is not so.
Correct.
And so I will be anybody who come up with a fact sheet, I will share it. Because if they put the facts there, the facts will bear out that we have been doing significant work in terms of putting St. Kitts and Nevis on the right path. Just the facts alone. And then you'll be able to see where the gaps are, and then we can speak about the gaps as well. So I've asked the press secretary, as I told you, and I want to see your platform so that we can see the facts. So when you go to that page, you can see what is being done right there in front of you. And you can see the challenges that are there. You can see what we met when we came in. You can see what is up with the development bank, what is up with social security, what we had to spend so much millions to stabilize them. I want people to see those things so that people can understand what is it we have to deal with. But I keep saying that the CBI would have been the toughest one, and it was extremely tough. And I think we are not totally out of the woods yet, but we have set it at least in a setting where we have brought the help to bring the region together to set up regulatory bodies and so forth so that there can be more confidence in our program. So I want to thank the CBI board for the excellent work it has been doing thus far.
Yeah, thank you. We didn't touch on, I just want to ask a question.
Yes.
Have you called Donald Trump?
We, of course, sent our congratulatory message. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Are you going to call him? Are you gonna pick up the phone and
I'm not opposed to calling any other leader at all. At all. Why? I mean, we have an excellent relationship with the United States of America. Okay. They have their internal political matters, such as we have ours. We don't get involved in the internal political matters. Whoever they choose as their leader, we look forward to working with that leader. Because again, the United States is a significant partner for St. Kitts and Nevis.
Awesome. Well, I think we have just about 2 more minutes. And so if there's anything that's pressing on you that 2 minutes, Anything that's really pressing that you did not get to share, you have the floor.
Right. So thank you very much. I think I was able to share a lot because you came from the beginning with the questions.
Yes.
And you brought the questions that people have been asking you.
Correct.
Right? And I appreciate that very much. But I want to say to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis that this government has been working tirelessly hard on your behalf. We acknowledge and we don't take lightly your challenges and your struggles. We don't find excuses for them either. We want to know what they are so that we can deal with them head on. As you see in my interview, I did not shy away from any conversation at all or any topic. Totally open and transparent so that we can have the necessary information to understand where we are so that we can appreciate what we have and see where we can make improvements. I don't take that lightly. I want to also say to the people of this country that we will continue to work, and in 2025, that we are considering to be the year of recovery, that we will see a lot of activities, fundamental projects, as we propel your beautiful country of St. Kitts and Nevis forward. And at the end of the day, we will be able to come to the people and say to you, this is what we have done on your behalf.
And people will be singing Calypso in 2025 about how things are going well.
Thank you very much. Okay, and I hope, and even then, there will still be some who say things are not going well.
Okay. We'll fix them again, right?
Yes, and
so we'll be back here this time next year to talk about everything,
yes,
about how things are going well.
So,
thank you, folks. That was amazing. I interviewed the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis. Wow, I can put that on my resume now. All right, so check us back next week at 10 o'clock. He was not the Prime Minister when I interviewed him before. My goodness, Jamster, behave yourself. I can now put this on my resume. All right, thank you guys. Yes. Next week, remember, Inside the News is at 10 a.m. You're not going to see me, but you'll see somebody else. All right?
Yes.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much.
Found the sound 98.9.